There's a certain kind of silence in a marriage that doesn't come from peace, it comes from rot. You don't hear it at first. It's slow, sneaky, like a drip behind a wall. You don't see the mold until the drywall's soft enough to push your finger through. For me, the silence began the moment my wife, Clara, brought home that man. He wasn't introduced as a man, of course. No, he was a friend from the gallery, the kind of guy who wore scarves indoors and mispronounced French wine on purpose. Daniel, with gelled hair and the smugness of someone who thought charisma could replace deodorant. I'm an artist by trade. Sculptor, mostly. A man of stone, wood, and patience. Clara used to call my work haunting. She said I carved grief like I had known it before it arrived. Maybe I did. Anyway, she said Daniel was helping her plan a show for emerging artists. Supposedly. He came over twice that week, then 3 times the next. Each time with a bottle of wine and too much teeth in his smile. I watched them laugh in my own kitchen, and I felt something tighten in my chest that wasn't quite rage. More like a promise. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I gave Clara a gift. A painting. A large one. 48 by 60 inches, oil on canvas, abstract enough to be interesting, textured enough to seem personal. She cried when she saw it. Said it reminded her of our honeymoon in Sedona, of the sunsets and the fire in the rocks. She hung it above the mantel. Centerpiece of the room. Proud, beautiful. Exactly where I wanted it. Because inside that painting was something she couldn't see. A pinhole camera, nestled behind the frame, with a motion trigger and a Wi-Fi feed. Took me a week to build it. 3 days to test it. 1 hour to install. I named it Vincent. Like Van Gogh, except this one never blinked. And for the next few weeks, I didn't say a word. I kissed her good morning. Brought her coffee in bed. Went to my studio. Came home for dinner. I acted like the man she pretended I still was. And every night, after she fell asleep, I downloaded the footage. The worst part wasn't what I saw, it was how unsurprised I was. Daniel. Of course. Not just once. Repeatedly. Shamelessly. The audacity was almost artistic. I didn't confront her. That would have been simple. No, I waited. Because I had an idea. Not revenge. Something better. A masterpiece. People say revenge is best served cold. Personally, I think it's best served slowly, with a vintage frame and a little dramatic lighting. While Clara giggled her way through betrayal and Daniel helped himself to my furniture, I got to work. Not in the studio. In the garage. Where the real magic lives. That's where I began to build something that would outlive them both. A reproduction. Of the painting, yes. But not just any replica. See, the original was abstract. This one would be revealing. 2 human figures, one woman with Clara's unmistakable profile, hair swept in that careless bun she thought made her look effortless. The man? A smudgy caricature of Daniel, complete with that ridiculous soul patch and the posture of a man who's never paid for dinner. They were painted mid-embrace, of course. Bodies intertwined, mouths inches apart, captured in oils like a modern-day betrayal fresco. But here's the twist. Their faces weren't angry. They were laughing. That's how it always looked on camera. Clara's little smirk when she locked the door behind him. Daniel's chuckle after pouring wine into the glasses I bought on our anniversary. I painted those details with the precision of a man who's been carving lies out of marble his whole life. And in the background? A third figure. Me. But not fully formed. Just a shadow. Watching. From the edge of the canvas. A hint of a man holding a camera, or maybe just the idea of one. I didn't sign the painting. I didn't need to. When I finished, I sat back and looked at it for a long time. Not because I doubted it, because I admired it. Like seeing your pain on a canvas and realizing it finally means something. But I wasn't done. Oh no. This painting wasn't for her. It was for them. All of them. Her friends. Our neighbors. The ones who smiled at me while knowing. The ones who saw Daniel's car and said nothing. The ones who invited him to dinner parties like I was the outdated software in Clara's life they were waiting for her to uninstall. They'd be receiving gifts soon. Each one, a carefully wrapped canvas print. Each one, a perfectly timed reveal. But first, I had to deliver the original. In person. To Daniel and Clara. In front of an audience. The invitation came in a cream-colored envelope. Heavy stock. Gold-embossed letters. Clara always had a thing for pretentious fonts. It was a gallery night. Not mine, of course. Hers. Or rather, theirs. Clara and Daniel were co-hosting a pop-up exhibit at one of those minimalist art spaces downtown. You know the type, concrete floors, white walls, hors d'oeuvres so small you feel rude eating too. Apparently, it was a celebration of vulnerability through form. Ironic, considering the only thing Daniel had ever sculpted was my wife's sense of decency. I RSVP'd, naturally. I wore a charcoal blazer. No tie. Clean shave. Smile like I'd slept soundly every night since the betrayal. Confidence is a cruel kind of perfume. It makes guilty people sweat. Clara saw me the moment I walked in. Her eyes flicked wide, then narrowed, like she wasn't sure if she was grateful or afraid. Daniel? He gave me a nod, the kind men give each other when they think they've won. And that's when I knew. He still didn't know. They hadn't found the camera. Perfect. I made small talk with the guests. Shook hands. Complimented the wine. Laughed with her friends, most of whom had the decency to look uncomfortable. I was the ghost at the feast, and I enjoyed every awkward swallow they took while pretending they didn't know what I knew. Then, right as the speeches were wrapping up, I stepped forward. I held up a wrapped canvas, same size as the painting above our old fireplace. Gold ribbon. Simple tag. For the hosts. Oh, Logan, Clara said, voice just a touch too bright. You didn't have to. I wanted to, I said. It's a tribute, really. Something that captures the essence of tonight. They exchanged glances. Her smile tightened. Daniel looked at the gift like it might explode. Good instincts. But they opened it. Right there. In front of 50 people. Art critics. Friends. A few clients of mine. Even. Silence dropped like a guillotine. The painting stared back. Them, mid-embrace. Laughing. Sin on their faces, oil on their skin. And me? In the shadows. Unmistakable. Watching. Someone in the back let out a low, oh damn. Clara's smile evaporated. Daniel's hands dropped. I tilted my head, mock curious. I call it, witness. She tried to recover. Logan, what is this? Some kind of sick joke. Not at all, I said calmly. Art is about honesty, isn't it? You both were so raw, so uninhibited in my living room. I just had to capture it. Right down to the spilled wine and the couch cushion you thought you fixed. Gasps. Whispers. One of Clara's friends turned red. Another backed away like the painting might bite. Daniel stepped forward. You spied on us? You put a camera in your own house. No, I corrected. Our house. And I put it behind a painting I gave her. She said it brought out emotion. I suppose she was right. Clara opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I smiled, genuine this time. Anyway, I said, turning to the crowd, I just wanted to share a piece of truth tonight. You know, in the spirit of art. Then I left. Not in a rush. Not with drama. Just calm. Because the painting didn't just tell the story. It started it. The fallout began before I even made it to the parking garage. By the time I reached my car, my phone was vibrating like a guilt-ridden conscience. Missed calls from Clara. A few from Daniel, too. I watched the screen light up and fade in cycles, like a dying lighthouse trying to warn a ship that had already crashed. I didn't answer. Let them stew. When someone detonates a bomb at a dinner party, the guests don't chase him into the night. They sit there, blinking through the smoke, trying to figure out which part of their face is missing. That's what Clara and Daniel were doing now. Holding their reputations in their hands like broken china, hoping no one noticed the blood. But people noticed. Oh, they noticed. By morning, the image was viral. Well, viral in the art world. Which means it appeared on 6 blogs, 3 Instagram pages, and one very juicy group chat run by a gallery assistant named Corey who didn't like Clara to begin with. He tagged me in a post. Never underestimate a man with a paintbrush and a broken heart. Logan Barrett, ladies and gentlemen. #witness. I didn't ask for the attention. I didn't need the validation. But I won't lie, it felt good. Not because people admired me. Because they understood. For once, someone other than me could see the outlines of what I'd endured. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't delusional. I was just the man who finally said what everyone else was too polite to mention. Infidelity isn't a mistake. It's a collaboration. And Clara? She was the lead artist. Over the next few weeks, I got to work on the reproductions. Not prints, reproductions. Each one hand-painted. Each one slightly different. In one version, Daniel's hand was gripping a wine bottle instead of Clara's waist. In another, Clara's eyes weren't closed. They were looking directly at the viewer, as if asking, are you going to tell him? I mailed them anonymously, one by one. To her college roommate. Her Pilates instructor. That insufferable couple who always bragged about their open floor plan and emotional intelligence. Even her mother got one. Yes, her mother. framed with a note that read, "You said you raised her to be a queen. Queens don't sneak around with court jesters." Clara called again. Left a voicemail. "Logan, you're ruining my life. I get it, okay? I hurt you. But this is psychotic. People are talking. I can't go anywhere without someone giving me that look. You made your point. Stop. Please." I played it twice. Not for pleasure, just to hear her say it. Please. A word she never used when she brought Daniel into my home. A word she never uttered when she looked me in the eye and told me I was emotionally unavailable. Now, suddenly, she wanted grace? Grace is earned, and she paid in counterfeit. One evening, I met with my old friend Elliot, an art critic who wore too much cologne and loved watching people destroy themselves in high definition. He looked at the painting hanging in my studio, the original Witness, the one I never sold. His eyes narrowed. "You know what this is?" he said. "Therapy," I replied. "No," he said. "It's a mirror. That's why it makes people squirm. Not because of what's in it, because of what it reflects. We've all done something ugly. We just hope no one paints it." He took a sip of whiskey and added, "Also, Clara looks a lot better in oil than in real life. You gave her too much grace." I smiled. That was the irony. I gave her too much. Even now, even as I exposed her, I was still making her beautiful, still framing her in gold leaf, still letting her live on canvas. She didn't deserve a tribute. She deserved to be forgotten. But I wasn't done yet. Not until Daniel got his. His came differently. Not a painting. A sculpture. I found a block of black walnut that had been sitting in my studio for years. Dense, heavy, perfect for what I had in mind. I carved for weeks, stripping away layers like I was peeling secrets off a body. The final piece? A man, hunched forward, holding a mirror. His face wasn't visible, just the back of his head, shoulders curled in shame. The mirror reflected the viewer. Every person who looked into it saw themselves as the betrayer. I titled it, Self-Portrait, according to Daniel. I didn't send it to a gallery. I sent it to Daniel's office. No card. No warning. Just a delivery truck, a dolly, and a note taped to the base. Some reflections aren't flattering, but they're always accurate. 2 days later, I heard he took leave from the firm. Clara deleted her social media. The pop-up gallery shut down. Their names began to disappear from the headlines, replaced by newer scandals and shinier stories. But the paintings remained. Hung in living rooms, whispered about at brunches, dissected in group chats by people who used to worship her. She wanted attention. Now she had permanence. One night, I went back to the house. The one we once called home. It was empty now, on the market. I stood outside, looking up at the window where the original painting once hung. Funny how something can be so familiar and so foreign at the same time. I didn't go in. Didn't need to. I had already taken what mattered, and left behind what didn't. Silence. It's the sound of a painting drying in an empty studio. The click of a phone that doesn't ring anymore. The hush after betrayal has been exposed, and all the players are left standing in the aftermath, wordless, awkward, rearranging their shame. I lived in that silence, and I listened to it. Because silence tells you who people really are when their applause fades. A month after the gallery debacle, Clara sent a letter. Not an email. Not a text. An honest-to-God handwritten letter, the kind people only send when they want to look sincere. It was 4 pages long, neatly folded. Cream paper. Same kind she used for wedding invites, if you believe in symmetry. She wrote about how humiliated she felt. How she hadn't left me because of hatred, but because of numbness. About how Daniel wasn't what she thought he was, and how the gallery community had turned cold faster than a wine fridge. She wrote that she missed the sound of my carving tools, the smell of cedar in my hands, that she sometimes dreamed about the way I'd pull her chair out at dinner, even when we weren't speaking. And then she ended it with this. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I remember the man you were, and that I'm starting to understand the one I chose instead. I didn't reply, because silence says more than sympathy ever could. She wanted closure. She wanted release. But what she needed, what she earned, was distance. And I gave it to her in abundance. Daniel didn't write, but his brother did. Apparently, the sculpture I sent to Daniel's firm had been moved into storage for morale reasons. The HR department didn't think employees should feel psychologically implicated by office decor. Fair. His brother, Nate, asked if I would consider donating it to a museum instead. Said it deserved to be seen, and Daniel wasn't in the right headspace to appreciate interpretive work. Interpretive. That was a good one. I responded with 2 words. He interpreted it fine. I never heard back. But here's the thing about public betrayal. It doesn't just burn the bridge between two people. It torches the village around it. Mutual friends split like the Red Sea. Some messaged to say they were praying for me. Others posted vague Instagram stories about drama and letting people go. Translation: they didn't know how to act, so they acted like I didn't exist. One guy, Kevin, who once sobbed to me about his divorce over a plate of ribs, texted me this. Bro, I know this is messy, but Clara's still a good person. Maybe you could have handled it in private. Private? As if the cheating was private. As if walking into your own home and finding your marriage being dismantled like an old IKEA shelf is some delicate affair to be whispered about under linen napkins. I left Kevin on read. He got the message. But not everyone ran. Some stayed. Quietly. Steadily. Like Ava. Ava had been Clara's friend once, long ago. But she'd always been one of those people who saw through charm. The kind who listened more than she spoke, and who once told me over wine, "Your wife's the kind of woman who smiles in a mirror just to see if it cracks." I hadn't spoken to her since the gallery night. But one afternoon, I found a small envelope on my doorstep. Inside was a card with a single brushstroke across the front, deep red, thick, bleeding at the edges. Inside, she'd written, "Not all art is meant to be beautiful. Some of it is just honest. You made something honest." And it hit like truth. Underneath, that was a small invitation. Coffee. Just to talk. Not to pry. Not to judge. To talk. So I went. We sat outside at a quiet cafe, neither of us saying much at first. Then she said, "You look better." Better than when? Than when you were pretending not to see it. That hit like a chisel to the ribs. Because she was right. The worst part of betrayal isn't the moment you find out. It's all the moments before, the ones where your gut screams and your heart bargains. Where your hands go numb from holding up the version of reality you wish were true. The version where she loves you. The version where he's just a friend. The version where you matter. Turns out, I mattered. Just not to her. Not in the way a man is supposed to. Ava and I talked for hours that day. Not about love, or revenge, or what comes next. We talked about healing. About what it means to rebuild not just a life, but a sense of self. Pain doesn't get erased, she said, stirring her coffee. It gets absorbed. Like ink into paper. It becomes part of the work. But it stops bleeding eventually. She wasn't wrong. I'd stopped bleeding. Now I was sketching something new. Back in my studio, I started a fresh piece. No shadows this time. No watchers in the dark. No lovers caught in the act. This one was just a man. Sitting alone. Brush in hand. Looking out a window that didn't exist, at a horizon only he could see. I called it Peace, Draft 1. Because that's what healing is, really. A draft. Not perfect. Not final. But a step in the right direction. It was strange, waking up one morning and realizing I no longer hated her. Not because I forgave her, no, that ship had sunk and rusted at the bottom of my patience years ago. But because hate takes energy, and I was conserving mine for better things. The studio got busier. Commissions rolled in. Strangers emailed me, thanking me for the painting. One woman wrote, "Your pain turned into my permission." I left him. "Thank you." I didn't answer, but I smiled. I was becoming something else now, not just a man who'd been cheated on, but a man who turned the ash into architecture. I created a new collection titled Unseen. Pieces inspired by all the little things men are taught to ignore. Indifference. Shrugs. Laughs that don't include us. I didn't paint Clara anymore. That part of the gallery was closed. And then one morning, I got a call. My work had been accepted into a national exhibit. One of the curators had seen Witness through a blog and wanted to feature my full series. The email ended with, "You've created more than art. You've captured consequence." The night before the exhibit, Clara showed up at my door. Same coat she wore the day I proposed. Same perfume, too, floral, nostalgic, and now mildly nauseating. "I heard about the show," she said. "I just needed to see you." I didn't invite her in. Just leaned against the doorframe. "I wanted to apologize again," she started, rehearsed and shaky. "For everything. Not because I want something, just because I realized what I lost." "You didn't lose me," I said. "You gave me away." She blinked. I continued, "You dropped me like a bad habit. Don't act like I slipped through your fingers." She wiped her eye. "You were the best thing in my life, Logan." I shook my head. "No, Clara. I was the best thing in your life. You were just a chapter in mine." She left without another word. And I finally understood what peace looked like. Watching someone you used to ache over shrink in your rearview mirror without a flicker of longing. Opening night came. The gallery was packed. The lights were low. Each painting stood like a verdict on the wall. People whispered, gasped, stared too long. And right there, in the center of the exhibit, stood Witness, framed in silence. A woman came up to me, mid-30s, tears in her eyes. She pointed to one piece, a variation of Clara, but more abstract. Her eyes were blurred. Her mouth open in laughter. That one, she said. That's how my ex looked. The last night he told me I was crazy, that I was imagining things. I nodded. You're not crazy, I said. She hugged me. Not because we knew each other, but because in that room, we all did. I sold Witness. A private collector bought it. Said he wanted to hang it above his fireplace as a warning. I was hesitant at first. That piece was personal. But then I realized his fireplace wasn't my battlefield anymore. Let him use it however he liked. I walked out of that gallery lighter than I'd felt in years. No canvas in hand. No ring on my finger. No shadows trailing me home. That night, I started one last painting. Just black paint. On white canvas. A single brush stroke through the middle. Nothing else. I titled it Closure. I didn't plan to sell it. Or display it. Some things, you make just for yourself. The irony is, I never set out for revenge. All I wanted was truth. But somewhere along the way, I found something better than revenge, dignity. Clara and Daniel faded into the background like overexposed film. Last I heard, she moved to Arizona. New name, new job, new man, probably rehearsing new lines. I didn't care. I had someone new too. Her name was Elise. We met at a gallery. She didn't know my story, didn't care about the viral drama. All she saw was the art. And somehow, that was enough. One night, she asked if I still thought about Clara. I said, only when I need to remind myself what lying looks like. She smiled, and then asked if I was happy. I looked around the studio. The walls were clean. The paintings were quiet. The camera and the painting? Gone. I said, yeah, I am. Because in the end, I didn't need to burn her world down. I just had to paint mine back together.